Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring an absolutely fascinating folktale centered around a concept called Karm Kafal, which basically translates to the fruits of action. It's a story that takes a very real, incredibly relatable problem, workplace exploitation, and just flips it on its head with this wild supernatural twist. And it really tests the limits of human discipline. But before we meet our main guy, I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine you stumble across a magic basket that duplicates literally anything you put inside it. What would you choose, right? Would you be super strategic about it, highly disciplined, or would human greed kind of just take the wheel? Well, passing that exact psychological test is the entire core of the story we're unpacking today. So, let's get into it. Section 1. The Exploited Honest Woodcutter. We start off in this beautiful little village called Kasganj, and here we meet Ramu. Ramu is your classic, virtuous, incredibly hardworking woodcutter who is just completely devoted to his wife and 2 kids. But unfortunately, he's stuck in a pretty grim reality. His boss is a guy named Seth Lalchand, and Lalchand is basically the poster child for a greedy, exploitative boss. He literally just invents these completely fabricated excuses out of thin air to dock his workers' pay and, line his own pockets. The systemic wage theft here is actually staggering when you really look at it. Take Ramu's coworker, Harya. He was promised 3,000 rupees for his month of labor, but Lalchand only pays him 2,000. Why? Because he claimed Harya rested for 1 hour. I mean, imagine losing a straight-up third of your income just for catching your breath. It's wild. And then there's Ramu. He works every single hour, takes 0 breaks, and still only walks away with 2,500 rupees. Lalchand's excuse this time? He just casually claims the market price of wood dropped. It's a total take-it-or-leave-it situation. Now, being shortchanged by 500 rupees might not sound like the end of the world to everyone, but for Ramu, this is a full-blown domestic crisis. That missing money means he literally can't pay the school fees for his kids, Monu and Chinky. The teacher has already given them a super strict warning. No fees, you're sent home. So Ramu's honest, back-breaking labor isn't even enough to keep his family afloat anymore. His kids' education is totally on the line. Which brings us to Section 2. Flight to the cave. This financial desperation pushes Ramu absolutely to the brink. I mean, think about his day. He leaves for work in the morning, gets completely cheated out of his pay by Lalchand in the afternoon, and then spends his entire evening frantically searching all the village shops for any extra work. But he comes up totally empty. Then night falls. He's walking home, completely defeated, and out of nowhere, this bizarre twist of fate happens. He gets chased by a literal stampeding herd of buffaloes. Running for his life, he just dives blindly into this dark, hidden cave. Moving on to Section 3, the Jinn's Magic Basket. So he's inside the cave, catching his breath in the pitch black, just thanking his lucky stars he's alive. And he's about to have a supernatural encounter that changes the entire trajectory of his life. As his eyes kind of adjust to the dark, he spots this old, abandoned basket on the floor. He figures, hey, Suman, his wife, could probably use this at home for storage, so he reaches out to grab it. But the second he does, this massive, booming, disembodied voice just echoes through the cavern, freezing him in his tracks. It yells, "Stop! Do not try to touch it." And then, a mystical, ancient jinn reveals himself to a totally terrified Ramu. The jinn tells him he's been guarding this ancestral cave for years, and he drops this heavy truth bomb. He says, this cave can only be entered by someone whose mind is absolutely pure. The jinn explains he can basically read a person's entire history just by looking at them. So Ramu surviving that stampede and finding this hidden sanctuary, not a coincidence. It was 100% because of his inherent, uncorrupted honesty. And because of that pure nature, the jinn actually gifts Ramu the magical basket. But there's a massive catch. He lays out 3 very strict rules to prevent any greed from taking over. Rule number 1, choose wisely. The basket only duplicates the very first item you put inside it. Rule 2, no additions. You can never ever add another item. And finally, rule 3, avoid greed. He has to use it only for what is truly needed. So yeah, it's a spectacular gift, but it's also this incredibly profound test of self-control. All right, Section 4, the Sandalwood Miracle. So how does a totally desperate guy handle that kind of immense power? Well, Ramu sprints home to his wife, Suman, and they actually sit down and discuss their options really carefully, keeping the jinn's warning front and center. Then it hits them. They remember this single piece of rare sandalwood Ramu found in the forest a while back and gave to Suman for safekeeping. They realize this is the absolute perfect item to duplicate. It's not inherently greedy, like just dumping gold in there, but it's highly valuable, and it makes total sense for a woodcutter to sell. So Ramu exercises this incredible discipline. They take that single sandalwood stick, place it inside, and boom, instantly the basket starts duplicating the super rare wood over and over. The very next morning, Ramu completely bypasses Lal Chan's logging camp. He takes his premium wood straight to the market and sells it to merchants for a massive profit. And the absolute best part? The very first thing they do with this newfound wealth is march down and pay Monu and Chinky's school fees, instantly solving that immediate crisis. And that brings us to Section 5, Triumph of Integrity. So now, Ramu is completely financially secure. He's holding the keys to literally endless premium sandalwood. But he's facing his final and, honestly, most important test of character. Put yourself in his shoes for a second. With unlimited resources at your fingertips, do you just quietly keep the sandalwood secret, step into a life of solitary luxury? Or do you look back at those exploited, desperate workers you left behind at Seth Lalchan's camp? Well, Ramu's decision is just this beautiful subversion of what you might expect. Instead of hoarding all that wealth, he obviously makes sure his family is fully taken care of. But then he doesn't stop there. He actually goes back and brings his mistreated peers, guys like his friend Harya, right into his thriving new sandalwood business. He actively shares the prosperity. And Seth Lalchant, he is left with absolutely nothing. By empowering all those honest laborers, Ramu effectively drains that greedy boss of his entire workforce. Lalchand's empire of exploitation just crumbles because, well, he has no one left to exploit. And this perfectly captures the core moral of the source material, Karm Ka Phal. It's this deep principle that the fruits or the consequences of your actions truly matter, and that honest actions inevitably yield righteous rewards. Ramu's pure heart was literally the only reason he got the basket in the first place, and his continued generosity meant that his magic created true, shared prosperity for his whole community. In a modern world that honestly so frequently rewards ruthless ambition, Ramu's story really stands out. So how does his final choice challenge our modern ideas of individual success and wealth hoarding? It's a great reminder that true success might not just be about racing to the top, but about reaching back down and lifting others up with you. We'll leave you with that final thought to consider about community, wealth, and integrity. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. Keep learning, and we'll catch you on the next one.